dead inside a home in Milton.
Life-saving efforts were not successful and both were declared deceased.
Halton police are investigating after the bodies of a man and a woman are found in the garage of a residence.
I'm a bit worried about who I don't actually see on the task force and the voices that I think need to be there.
Some experts are pointing out glaring omissions after the province revealed today the members of its new task force in charge of distributing COVID-19 vaccines in the province and
show how much our community means to us by help feeding our community that is desperately in need at this time, right?
Meals cooked by Indigenous chefs distributed to Indigenous families in need. The new holiday initiative that aims to support communities that are often overlooked. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. 2 people were found dead in a home in Milton this afternoon. Here's what we know happened.
At approximately 3:11 p.m. today at this address in southwest Milton, Halton Regional Police received a 911 call for 2 persons in obvious medical distress. Police, fire, and EMS attended, and an adult male, adult female were found, vital signs absent, inside the garage of the home.
The female victim was taken to hospital where she was pronounced dead. The male victim died at the scene. Police won't confirm their relationship to one another. They do say that they aren't looking for any suspects and there is no threat to public safety. The investigation is ongoing and anyone with information is asked to come forward. A 33-year-old man is facing first-degree murder charges after a woman was found dead inside a Brampton home where a fire broke out. Emergency crews were called to the house near McLaughlin Road and Williams Parkway. At 4 this morning, 5 people made it out of the home, including 3 children. But the 61-year-old woman was found inside and could not be revived. Police are not commenting on the nature of the relationship between the woman and the man they arrested, only that they knew each other. Elder Verdentes Arruda has been charged with 1 count of first-degree murder and 5 counts of attempted murder. The province is reporting 1,780 new COVID-19 cases today, as well as tightened restrictions in 3 regions. But before we get to that, a new task force responsible for Ontario's COVID vaccine rollout had its first meeting today, and 9 people are on it, including some high-profile names. But as Lorenda Redicott reports, there is concern about who's not represented.
The first meeting for a task force with a huge challenge, sorting out logistics to make sure any Ontarians who want a COVID-19 vaccine get it. The head of the task force met his new team over the phone.
Let me just also say how intimidated I am. I look at the list of names.
Some of those names, infectious diseases expert Dr. Isaac Bogosh, Toronto's former police chief Mark Saunders, and an Indigenous chief, Roseanne Archibald.
What it means is hope, giving people hope, getting the economy back up and running again, getting people's lives back to normal.
The group also includes a trauma surgeon, a doctor from a children's hospital, and a bioethicist.
I'm a bit worried about who I don't actually see on the task force and the voices that I think need to be there.
He says while older people make up 97% of COVID-19 deaths, there's no one representing long-term care. And there are still questions about how seniors with complex conditions might respond to the vaccine.
How do we make sure that we are getting these vaccinations effectively to our older populations, whether they be in long-term care or other settings, and understanding the potential issues that could happen with vaccinations in older adults? That concerns me.
This long-term care advocate and researcher sees another possible issue.
There may be a missed opportunity to include public health, because we know every year public health rolls out a mass vaccine program in long-term care. So they have clear expertise doing this already. So the other question is, are they going to be involved?
New task force member Dr. Bogosh says one of his goals is including those most affected by this virus.
We know various communities are disproportionately impacted, and I really want to have broad representation of those communities because they need a voice, and their voices have to be heard and have to be integrated into these plans.
Critics note there's also no vaccination expert on the task force. They hope the team will reach out to people like this to ensure that as many people in Ontario will be vaccinated to reach herd immunity as quickly as possible. Lorenda Redicop, CBC News, Toronto.
Despite having higher infection rates than Toronto and Peel when those regions were put into lockdown 2 weeks ago, York Region is staying in the less restrictive red zone. 3 other regions, though, are moving into more restrictive zones. Middlesex, London and Thunder Bay will move into the orange zone. That's 1 step below red. And the Haliburton, Kawartha, Pine Ridge region will move to the yellow zone. The regions will move into these new zones as of this Monday. Thorncliff Park Public School was closed today, a day after a letter was sent home to parents informing them the school would be shut down for at least a week due to a COVID-19 outbreak. 26 students and staff are currently dealing with the virus, but with 19 of those cases already confirmed days ago on Monday, parents and experts are wondering why it took this long for the school to take action.
The number was shocking for most of people.
Yasser Nadaf's son was already in isolation after someone in his grade 2 class tested positive for COVID-19. Thorncliff Park Public School was the first in the city to participate in a voluntary asymptomatic testing pilot project. It resulted in 19 positive cases on Monday. As of yesterday, there were 26 when the school closed.
If the spread of the COVID at school happening, then in this case should close down.
The TDSB says the test results from other participating schools will be coming in soon.
We take the lead from Toronto Public Health and other hospitals and local health agencies as far as which schools should undergo that testing.
On Thursday, 3 of the school's 30 staff members refused to work, citing an unsafe work environment. Today, the Teachers Federation is happy their demands were answered, but they're still asking for more transparency from Toronto Public Health.
We don't understand what the threshold is for a school to shut down, but if it takes work refusals, then that is, I guess, what it's going to be.
We asked Toronto Public Health what that threshold is and why the school wasn't closed sooner. They didn't provide us with a number, but in a statement they said the decision to shut down the school was assessed daily, considering factors like the number of cases and the details of the case investigations, adding that it considers shutting down a school when COVID-19 is being spread within the school setting.
I'm sure that there will be some asymptomatic cases.
Abdul Azim is the parent of a student at Lester B. Pearson Collegiate Institute, which declared an outbreak once before. That school is also part of the asymptomatic testing pilot.
When I was speaking in one of the meetings with Toronto Public Health, I spoke to a doctor and I asked her a question that, what is that cutoff to close down the schools? The answer I got was, we have an eye on that situation.
I think it's important for Toronto Public Health to come up with some clear guidance on that. I understand that every school is going to be unique and every outbreak is going to be unique, but I think at the end of the day, people want to have a bit of clarity.
Thorncliff Park Public School will remain closed until at least next Wednesday. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Asymptomatic testing and the possible spread of COVID-19 in schools has led to major changes from both Toronto and Peel when it comes to what students need to do, even if they have even just one COVID symptom. And that means anything from a headache, runny nose, fever, anything you see here. If your child has just one of these symptoms, here's what you need to do. Stay home, self-isolate, and get them tested for COVID-19. The siblings who live in the same house are being asked to stay home as well. Toronto Public Health is recommending a 10-day isolation, while Peel recommends a 14-day isolation. Many high school students have opted for online learning because of the pandemic, but one Toronto mother says her son is being denied that right. She says the Toronto Catholic School Board is forcing her to choose between her son's health and his education, all because of the teen's past problems. Greg Ross has her story.
You go out, something happened, God forbid you get infected. What are you going to tell me? Oh, we're so sorry. No.
Keisha Thomas says the Catholic School Board in Toronto is refusing to allow her 15-year-old son to take online classes from home.
The school board is basically saying, no, you have to attend school for that school in person.
Thomas's son Nakiba was enrolled at St. Martin Catholic School, which has a program specifically for students who have been expelled from other schools. In a statement from the TCDSB, a spokesperson told the CBC the program includes an assessment of the attitudes and behavior of students, as well as observing and assessing their interaction with other students and staff, all of which requires in-person attendance. Nakiba was expelled from Chaminade College School here in North York back in October after he was involved in a violent altercation with another student.
He ended up stabbing this young man in this altercation.
Paul Rasu is with the Education Involved Advocacy Group and has been working with Nakiba for years. While he and the family recognize the seriousness of the altercation he was involved in, Rasu says because of the pandemic, the school board should make an exception.
That this kid just needs to know he's supported.
Thomas says the most frustrating part is the fact that every other school in the region has given parents the option to have their kids learn virtually from home.
You know, why is it not available when all other schools are online?
With COVID-19 cases on the rise in Toronto, Thomas made the decision to pull Nakiba from the school. She says with 6 people living in her home, it wasn't worth the risk.
Because then if one person gets sick, then the other 5 is at risk.
In the meantime, Rasu is providing a temporary solution.
We secured a course for him, and we will be helping him through that course in the next month while we appeal and wait to see.
And they say they will continue to appeal to both the school board and the Ministry of Education until Thomas and her son are given the same protections that other families have been given during the pandemic. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Indigenous chefs in cities across the country are cooking up a storm, preparing meal kits that will be handed out to Indigenous families in need this holiday season. The Indigenous Culinary of Associated Nations launched this initiative as a way to boost business for the chefs while helping to feed those in communities that are often overlooked. Ardalia Ashry spoke to the local chef in charge of distributing the boxes here in Toronto.
Meal kits like these will soon be delivered to Indigenous families across the GTA. Chef Joseph Shawana is spearheading the initiative in Toronto with support from Centennial College, where he also teaches.
All of us being chefs and in the food industry, and pretty much our lives are put on hold because the whole industry is just put on hold at the moment. We have some time to focus on our efforts so we can give a helping hand to those in need.
Many food banks have been seeing record demand during the pandemic. Social studies expert Christina Hyland says food insecurity has hit Indigenous and Black communities particularly hard.
The pandemic's quite traumatic, as we know, but also systemic trauma. I think racism obviously is incredibly traumatic. And so when you think of how these all intersect and play out in people's lives, it's multifactorial.
She also highlights the link between food insecurity and mental health.
There's been studies on the anxiety that this causes, that these communities aren't able to face very huge challenges in accessing culturally specific traditional foods that meet their community's needs.
Chef Shawana is aiming to assemble 200 boxes by December 20th, each containing Indigenous foods.
You'll have anywhere from wild rice to some proteins like rainbow trout from Manitoulin Island. So we can tell our story and show how much our community means to us by help feeding our community that is desperately in need at this time, right?
The countrywide initiative is aiming to raise $60,000 to cover the cost of all boxes. In Toronto, the holiday feast boxes will be handed out Christmas week. Dahlia Ashry, CBC News, Toronto.
Heading into the weekend with our daytime highs a little bit on the cool side. I'm meteorologist Colette Kennedy, but it will be a quieter weather pattern. I'll have all the details coming up.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
Partly cloudy tonight, but clearing a bit as we head into the overnight, and with that December chill in the air. Let's go now to our meteorologist Colette Kennedy with what we can expect over the weekend. Colette.
Thanks, Kelda. Very important forecast, of course, when we're going into the weekend. You want to know how to plan any outdoor activities or what's going on. Well, I do see some really positive things in here. Now, for one, we're going to see some partial clearing. Not everywhere. For the city, though, much of the GTA, we're getting into some clearing. Elsewhere, a northerly flow is going to keep some cloud cover in, and I'll go into a little more detail on that in a moment. Slightly cool, though, as we look ahead towards Saturday, a little breezy. In fact, a little breezy even into Sunday, but even more sunshine for the second half of the weekend. And that's kind of the best part of this in terms of the short term here, looking through the weekend and even the beginning of next week. I'm not seeing any active weather. So getting through some of the wet flurries that we're seeing now, a little bit of lake effect flurries we'll have tonight, then things are quiet. So a lot of areas that still have some snowfall, you can maybe get out there and find a way to enjoy it. Now, this is what we were looking at earlier today with those daytime highs. And so with those temperatures just above freezing, a lot of times that even when we had some of the flurries, they were very wet in nature or even changing over to a little bit of rain shower activity. And there's still a little bit, as that front has gone through, we get into a northerly flow. It just picks up a little bit of moisture and we see some flurries and also a bit of cloud cover associated with the direction of the winds. So that kind of carries on. I say we get some clearing, so partial clearing. We'll see this more for the GTA, but there'll be areas where we have a kind of portion of southwestern Ontario off of Georgian Bay where you'll keep a little extra cloud cover and some of those flurries lingering into tomorrow at times as well. But it's really not active weather. We're not talking about accumulations. So as we look ahead, not just for Saturday, I want to show you that as we go into Sunday, much more of eastern Ontario along the North Shore, around the Golden Horseshoe. You should clear out a little better Sunday for the Niagara region, a little more cloud cover on Saturday, but we still get this tricky spot here west of London where you get a few flurries still in the forecast, even for the second half of the weekend, and a little bit more of that cloud deck there too. This is a look at your temperatures then. Overnight tonight, what you can anticipate for Windsor, -1, but it will feel like -6 tomorrow morning. So our temperatures are certainly running below seasonal. Average high at this time of year is 3.7, and they're not bad for the Windsor area in southwestern Ontario, but they're definitely below seasonal elsewhere in terms of what we're seeing in Ontario. Tonight's readings, these are actually close to where they should be for this time of year. You're even on the mild side there, St. Catharines. It's these numbers. It's the daytime highs that are running just a little below where they ought to be. It's not a big deal, but I just always say those couple of degrees at this time of year means so much more than it does a couple of degrees in the summertime, right? Obviously, Sunday just 0, but more sunshine into Monday. Yes, this is what I'm talking about, where we have a pretty quiet weather pattern. Nice to see until maybe we start to see things changing towards midweek next week, Hilda.
I like seeing that stretch of sunshine. Thanks so much, Colette. Volunteers are the reason so many people have food on their plates in this city. They make everything tick at our food banks. Jonathan D'Souza immigrated to Mississauga from Kenya. He has 4 children, but he spends most of his time figuring out how to get food to the people who need it. Metro Morning host Ismaila Alpha met up with him just before the city went into lockdown.
Can you describe where we are and what's going on here?
Well, we're in the middle of the Mississauga Food Bank main warehouse. This warehouse is like a distribution center, and from here it's distributed out to about 40 agencies around the city of Mississauga. That would be food banks, agencies, soup kitchens, all that sort of thing. But with COVID, what happened was we saw the need was so greatly increased that we opened a pantry. And so now we actually have distribution out of here to individuals who need food.
Now you also have it's a program called Food Bank to Home.
Food Bank to Home, yes.
Well, this part of your job is to make the phone calls to people who do need food. What are those conversations like?
For me, that would be the best part and also the hardest part of the role. The best part is I say these are clients, but I feel I know these people. Very often I can recognize their voice when they call, because you can see people who are having a really tough time, a really tough life, but it hasn't put them down.
The impact of this pandemic on the need, the increase from 42 households to almost 1,000 households,
yeah.
and that's just for the food bank to home program. Can you keep up here?
Yeah, I think with that, it's always at the back of your mind that however much you do, there is always a need out there. And that's why we keep looking for more volunteers, we keep looking for more donations. There is always a need.
You're preparing and you're going to take food to Jerry.
Yes, I'll be packing today for Jerry, and then I'll do the delivery as well.
Now you two have been in contact for a while. 8 months?
It's about 8 months.
Eight months now, but
yes.
you've never met face to face?
Never met him, never met him.
What do you know about Jerry?
I don't know much about Jerry, actually. I just know he's a senior. I believe he lives alone. In my mind, I have a picture of these people.
Okay.
But I know it's probably nothing like what they'll turn out to be.
Yeah. Let's get to it. I guess we should meet Jerry.
Okay. So Jerry, I'm Jonathan. We've been speaking for months now, and finally I get to see you. Yeah. You look a lot younger than I thought you'd be. You know, when we speak to you I speak to you every other day. In my mind, I have this picture of who you are. But you're looking really good.
Well, thank you. The thing that impressed me with the food bank is they were very conscious of the situation, very helpful, were not putting me down like you're a beggar. They were just so compassionate. It's a great feeling to feel someone is there to help. As I said, I've never asked for help in my life, but to realize that there is people out there and how compassionate and honest they are with me is it means so much.
Already, you've helped raise more than $430,000 for local food banks, which is great news because with the pandemic, the need at GTA food banks is even greater this year. You can find out how to donate to our annual Sounds of the Season fundraiser at cbc.ca/SOTS. Finally tonight, something to hopefully lift your spirits as we head into Saturday. The Toronto Zoo has got a new addition, a baby zebra. The unnamed fowl is son to Tori, a 10-year-old Grevy zebra. She gave birth in the early morning hours of December 1st. The baby zebra is part of the zoo's Grevy Zebra Species Survival Plan, which aims to help increase the population of the endangered species. As you can see, baby and mom are doing well, though at the moment you won't be able to walk up close to visit him. There is, though, a holiday drive-through experience happening on the zoo grounds right now. And that's our show for you tonight and for the week. Thank you so much for watching. Maribel Tarouk has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. Have a great weekend, everyone.